You know, what I've been trying to do for the last 20 years is to really edify you guys and ladies, to really get you to become perfect. Because God said that we should be perfect. But there's this mentality out there that you can't be perfect. I mean, Christians will quickly tell you, everybody does it. No one is perfect. You hear that sometimes?
All the time.
You hear it all the time, right? And when you hear, what crosses your mind when you hear that? Like right on, or
no,
that's not true, or what?
I got to tell you, I spend a lot of time at work, so I think about work a lot. And when somebody makes a large mistake, and I get the answer, nobody's perfect, then I get the emotional response, and you just want to throttle somebody. What do you mean nobody's perfect? So you're allowed to act like this, and so I don't use that excuse on myself. I try to see what's driving me to act the way I am.
Yeah.
When I do something like that.
I've noticed that one of the worst things that's happened to Christians is that they've allowed themselves to be influenced by the world. They talk like the world, they act like the world. I was reading a story the other day where in Northern California, they're teaching 5-year-old children that homosexuality is normal, to accept it. And they use this word, well, we're teaching it so that children be tolerant with one another, meaning that children will grow up in that school and everywhere they would accept whatever you are. So they use the word tolerance to teach this to the children. And I'm looking at these, and they had a picture of it, and you see these 5-year-old kids sitting in this classroom, and the teacher's teaching them that homosexuality is no different than heterosexuality and, whatever, and don't judge it, it's fine. And I'm like, why would parents, Christian parents, I can understand secular parents, people who don't believe in God doing it, but I'm wondering, why would Christian parents sacrifice their children to this? Because the world said, let's do it so that they can learn to be tolerant. If anybody should teach, quote-unquote, tolerant, it should be the parents, whatever that means. But how do parents turn their kids over to this type of teaching? And then I read, as I was reading this story, it said that in the public school system, in this particular school, that you're not even allowed to take your kids out. If you, let's say you didn't want your kid to take this particular class, they can't opt out of the class. The school has that much control over the children. And I'm thinking, when did this happen? I don't remember that happening. Because in the good old days when boys were boys and men were men, the school did not control your children. The parents and teacher worked together. They knew what was going on. Did you guys notice? Is this news to you? But when did this happen, though? When did the Christian become like the rest of the world? And if you're acting and believing what the rest of the world believe, who is the light of the world? Who is the salt of the earth? Is it the secular people, or are the Christians the light of the world? I saw a hand somewhere just now. Yes, ma'am.
I think we just, from a long time ago, things started changing, and we never stood up and said, don't. I remember, I don't know why, but I was always shocked to find, on TV shows when people lived together. There was a time when they didn't even show them in bed together, and
right.
Suddenly they're living together. And the other day I saw, during regular time, not late at night, but people having sex, on TV, and I was thinking,
well, you're not supposed to watch the porn.
it was just.
You should have flipped that channel, Susan.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is,
she's like, yeah.
a long time ago, I started noticing these things. I figured somebody else the experts were going to take care of this, and you kind of let it slide, and then something worse happens, and you let it slide.
Yeah, one thing leads to another, and that's what evil does. When you allow evil to happen, one thing just leads to another, as good would do as well. Yeah. You allow things to happen, you allow someone to take control of your life, they'll take a little bit at a time until eventually they control you. Yeah. And that's what evil does, and that's why you have to deal with evil just like that. Yeah. You can't have any sympathy for evil at all.
And then you give up like husbands do when they lose control of their kids. They just kind of give up.
Yeah, but I'm not understanding how is this happening, and we don't really hear a lot of talk about it from the Christian community. Wake up, men and women of God. The world, evil is taking over. We need to start fighting back. We need to be strong. We need to stand up for what is right. I'm not hearing like an outcry about it. Like people are not straight up about what's going on. Homosexuality is wrong. And that should not be taught to little kids as young as 5 years old. For what purpose would you want to teach that to a child? To steal their innocence? That's just like raping a child at 5. You might as well turn them over to the molesters. If you're going to allow some adult to teach them that wrong is right and right is wrong, at a point in their life when they just don't know it better. And where's the love of the fathers and mothers that they allow this to happen? I'm just not getting this.
We don't want to admit that we did that, that we let this happen. So.
But it doesn't make sense because with my child, I don't need to admit anything to anybody. I have a natural instinct to want to protect my child by whatever means necessary. Yes.
Okay, I don't suppose you're familiar with an old saying Benjamin Franklin said, a person who gives up a little freedom for a little security deserves neither freedom nor security, and that's what we as people are doing right now, giving up freedom one piece at a time for security one piece at a time.
But you're really not secure when you give up freedom for security. You're not secure at all. You're worse off then than you are when you think that you're giving it up for that.
Yes.
You're really worse off. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I was going to agree that the false security that we feel when mothers felt that they needed to go out to work so that they can have more things instead of being at home with children and teaching their children.
Yeah.
And when it began happening in the public schools, not coming home, looking at what's going on with your children, coming home, sacrificing that extra income to teach your children.
Yeah. It's like parents have lost love for their children. How can you have a child that don't love that child, just sacrifice it to the world? I'm not getting this. And then I hear people say, well, there's nothing I can do. I don't have the power. I'm weak and I can't do anything about it. You can do something about it. All you have to do is put down that extra party, get rid of that extra drink, do without some things, make those sacrifices for your children. You do not have to do this. And these people, I also read in this report that the head of education, like in the government, is a homosexual. The guy who's making the decision from the top down is, he's making these decisions. And like all these people are in place now to corrupt the next generation. And parents are just allowing their children to be corrupt. And they feel like they don't have the strength to do anything about it, but you do. You don't have to be weak in life. Well, no, you don't have to be weak. And what I want you guys to know is that the way that you've been taught have been totally wrong. Everything that you thought was right was wrong in the way that you've been taught. And that's why God said that we have to renew our minds.
Say what you're gonna